Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Winning Where It Matters. My name is Che Awanko, and it's a pleasure to have you join me once again. I recently led an activity with a group of young people, and during the activity, I had a stern conversation with one of the participants because he had been fidgeting and make playing pranks and doing all kinds of distracting things during um, our gatherings all week. And so this one morning, I'm in the middle of leading the activity and I'm talking, and he kept doing the things that I kept saying, stop, don't do that. And so I had a very stern conversation with him in the presence of the other students. Later that evening, I thought about what had happened. In the moment, I was justified. But as I thought about it after the fact, I realized that I acted out of frustration. I was irritated, I was frustrated, and so I had a stern conversation with him. I would have liked to do it differently. I would have loved to have a more affirming conversation, a more affirming conversation to correct the behavior. But in the moment with this happening, I did what made sense to me in that moment of frustration. So I would have loved to do things differently. And I admitted that to myself. And so I had a choice the following morning whether to bring this up and acknowledge in front of the whole group that I would have wished I made different choices. And I did. The next morning, I spoke to the group. Now, that was a moment of vulnerability, going in front of younger people and admitting that I wasn't very proud of my actions. I wish I had done different things. I could have let it slide and not talk about it, but I chose to talk about it because I thought that was a moment, a learning opportunity, one for the people I was working with, one to realize that kindness is a better option, that acting out of frustration may not let you do your present your best self, but then also acknowledging that and modeling that, acknowledging that you've made a mistake is not the end of the world. It's actually an honorable thing. And so, for those reasons, I did speak about it. That wasn't a big deal. We moved on, and group kept carrying on with their activities. The reason I'm telling you this story is to highlight the fact that critical thinking is not only about thinking about your actions before you take them, but also looking back at your actions and saying, what happened? Could I have done better? Could I have acted differently? It's both about thinking about your actions before and also about your actions after, because that's called different things by different people. It might be reflection, it might be a look back, but certainly if you're thinking critically about your actions, it helps to think about them forwards and then also backwards. Um, Taking the time to ask what happened, what did I do, why did I act that way? Could I have acted a little differently? Because anytime we act out of frustration, I don't think we bring our best self to the table. Um, yes, there are times where you have to face fire with fire. There are times some people need a stern, conversation. There's sometimes you have to get it into it with people. I don't recommend that, but there are certain situations that you just need to tell people what they need to hear. But if you are doing that intentionally, like you're choosing to do that because you've weighed the options and you found out that's the best course of action, that's different. But in most cases, when we react, with frustration, with anger, with irritation, we don't bring our best self to the table. And so that's where my little reflection got me to think about and to be honest about my actions in saying I would have loved to act differently, but I acted out of frustration. And so didn't have as much control about my conversation. And I could have even slipped and said something that I didn't want to say. You may have situations that have come to mind as you started listening to me that you are probably thinking, I may have acted out of frustration and didn't do what I wanted to do, but I did what my emotions dictated. It's okay to reflect on that and acknowledge that and ask yourself, why did you do that? Were there moments in that experience where you could have paused and counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 silently in your head to buy you some time before you said what you said? There are tactics that you could use to help yourself pause, think before you act. And we are all learning to do better. And I think when you acknowledge small mistakes, it gives you the courage to admit when you make bigger mistakes. And hopefully, you don't have to make bigger mistakes, but taking the time to think about your actions before, great, honorable. Most of us know that. But also taking the time to look and think deeply about our actions after the fact will be helpful in giving us new information and ideas about how to act and act out of the intentional parts of our brain and not out of our frustration. If there's anything you would like to talk about, anything, I'm happy to take your call. And I look forward to talking to you. And as always, I believe in you, and I hope you believe in yourself too. I'll see you on the next one.